Youth Ambassadors from Peru. We are your World Learning staff who will be working with you guys on your exchange when you're here in the U.S. And we're so excited to be talking with you today while you're at your pre-departure orientation in Lima. So we're going to start off by introducing ourselves, and then we'll jump into talking a little bit more about the program, what you guys can expect in terms of the follow-on project, and then we'll also give you a brief cultural briefing at the end to give you a little bit of an idea of what your experience in the U.S. will be like. So to start off with, my name is Calla Sneller. I am based out of the office here in D.C. and very excited to meet you all when you're here in October.
And I am Bella Cazier, and I'm also based out of D.C. And as Calla said, I'm also very excited to meet you all.
Hi, I'm Carolina Romero, and I'm also based out of DC with Calla and Bella.
Great. So we will be with you guys during your exchange portion in Charlottesville, Virginia. You'll then go to the host communities, which are Seattle and Portland. During that time, you'll be traveling with two of our seasonal World Learning staff members. Their names are Gabe and Shanti, and they will be traveling with you to your host communities while we stay here in DC. And then you'll return to DC for the last segment of the program and be back together as a group and also with us. So I'm going to give you a little bit more details about those program segments just so you know more what to expect. You should have gotten some of this information in your guidebook, which hopefully you all read. And so we're just, reiterating that. If you have more questions about the details, please look that over. You can also feel free to reach out to us. But basically, as you guys know, the goal of Youth Ambassadors is to help create this group of youth for all the way across the Western Hemisphere. So there's Youth Ambassadors from the top of Canada all the way down to Tierra del Fuego. And we're trying to create young leaders across the Western Hemisphere who are involved in their communities and making a difference across the hemisphere, but also just in your local communities. So the whole purpose of this program is to train you to feel equipped to implement your community service project upon your return to Peru. So that sounds like, this huge big goal, all this responsibility we're putting on you, but we really will help you feel prepared to take this on. And we expect a lot from you throughout this program because we know that you are already such great leaders, so motivated to make a difference, and we really want to challenge you and push you to be able to achieve these goals. So that being said, you can expect that, this will be an extremely fun program, an enriching program. It will be a life-changing experience. All three of us have been involved in exchange in Latin America. We all speak Spanish to various degrees as well, and so we understand, the experience that you're having being abroad, speaking a different language, and trying to acclimate. We know this will be challenging, and we'll also push you with busy schedules, a lot of different activities that are meant to help you reflect and learn a lot throughout this experience. Of course, we'll have a ton of fun as well with cultural visits, activities to get to know each other, things like that. But we do just want to set this expectation that this will be a relatively intense experience because it's going to change your life and you're going to learn a lot through it. And we're so excited to go through this journey with you, to support you and help you throughout the entire way. You're going to have a whole team of people around you who are really rooting for you to succeed in this experience. And we can't wait for it to start exactly a month. So very exciting. But to kind of dive in a little bit now to the different program segments that I touched on before, as you guys know, you'll arrive here in Washington, D.C., and myself and Bella will meet you at the airport where we'll be transported down to Charlottesville, Virginia, which is about 2 to 3 hours south of here. Our first week of programming, we're going to be partnered with the University of Virginia there, which is a really well-known university here in the U.S. So it's going to be really cool. We're going to get to be on a college campus, surrounded by students, get to see what their life is like, and it's just going to be a beautiful time there. All the leaves are going to be changing, so it's going to be a wonderful setting for us to start our leadership and orientation segment of the program. During that segment, we will focus on helping you guys bond as a group through different activities, discovering yourself as a leader, your strengths and your weaknesses, helping you kind of come into your sense of self as a leader to start the program off with. So that's going to be a time when we're all together as a group. The next segment, when we transfer into our host communities, again, which are Portland, Oregon, and Seattle, Washington, which are both out on the West Coast, the group will be split in half. You'll be mixed together between Bolivia and Peru. So you'll be traveling to your host communities with a different group than who you travel to the US with. Some people the same, have not. And then when you're in the host communities, you will focus on delving more into the sub-themes of the program. Again, these are part of your guidebook, so definitely look back and read that, but our 2 sub-themes will be multiculturalism and civic engagement. So we've planned a whole agenda along with our host community partners. We work with 2 different organizations in Seattle and Portland who you all will get to meet as well, to plan an agenda for you all focused on these 2 sub-themes and demonstrating how the community works with multiculturalism, works with civic engagement, and works to promote these 2 values throughout their community. So we're really trying to give you guys the opportunity to see how projects are based in communities, how organizations address social issues, rally volunteers, etc., to see how you could relate some of these ideas back to your project. One of the best parts of the program is getting to stay with a host family when you're in your host community. It's such a wonderful, challenging, vulnerable time with a family here from the US. We definitely see this as like one of our favorite parts of the program because it pushes people outside of their comfort zone even more, and you'll grow so close with your family after 11 days and just have a really formative experience. We also really want you to see that each family in the US is different. There's no one model, just as the same as it is in Peru. So really trying to help you understand that everyone's experience will be different with their host families, will be formative in their own ways. One of the most common questions we get during this discussion, and also as soon as you guys get here to the US, is who is my host family? When will I get to know more about them, know where I'm staying? So we actually keep this information from you guys for a certain reason. We've seen that on the program it's really hard for people to be present when we're doing the leadership and orientation segment because you're just so excited for the host family and people will start talking to them, etc. beforehand. So we actually will not be giving you your host family assignments until the evening before you travel to your host community, just so that you're able to stay present and focused on the segment where you are and not get too distracted by talking with them. So if you guys have more questions about that, please feel free to reach out to us. But again, this is all part of trusting the process, trusting the challenges of the program, and knowing that it'll help you learn more in the end. The last segment, the group comes back together here in Washington, D.C. You'll get to see where we work here at World Learning, and everyone will be together again. We're going to stay in a hostel here in downtown D.C., so we'll have a lot of access to the different monuments and memorials. We'll get to sightsee a little bit here in DC, but the biggest focus of the last segment is really synthesizing the learning, so a lot of reflection and debriefing. We have a curriculum called dialogue groups where you guys will be discussing social issues that are important to you throughout the exchange. And then we're also really focused on project planning. We'll do a few different workshops on actually planning out the action steps you'll learn to talk about setting up your project, different challenges you might face. We'll also start you off with doing a needs assessment of really identifying areas in your community you can make a difference that relate to your passions. So delving deep into planning that project, and it all culminates in presenting your action plan for your project to your peers, the other youth ambassadors, World Learning staff, and possibly Department of State staff as well, who is the funder of youth ambassadors. So giving you the opportunity to share your plans and really promote it and talk about it, which is something you'll need to do when you go back to Peru and are trying to help other people become invested in your plans or donate and things like that. So we're trying to really set you up with the skills that you'll need to go back and implement a successful community project. And that's really what the whole program is culminating up to. So again, as we said before, definitely a very fast-paced program. We'll be very busy here in the US because we're just going to be taking advantage of everything that we have to offer. So we hope you guys can get a lot of rest over these next few weeks after the pre-departure orientation and really prepare yourselves mentally for this wonderfully life-changing experience. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Bella, who's going to talk to you guys a little bit more about your follow-up projects and everything.
So this section is kind of talking about your project and all of the ideas that you'll have come up with starting now. And of course, developing throughout your state in the United States, in your host communities, in Charlottesville and here in DC, and really being able to come up with an idea and come up with a really strong plan so that you can be successful when you go back to Peru and you're able to actually put these plans into motion. So we'll talk a lot about kind of expectations, we'll talk about the whole planning process, we'll really be there, us here as a staff, but also your mentors and your peers that you'll be with for these couple weeks to really act as resources to prepare you for being able to carry out these projects. And one thing that I really want to say right away is that you talked about ideas for your projects and your application, and you definitely don't have to stick with that idea. Throughout the time that you're here, you might get inspiration from different people, from different groups that you meet with in Seattle or in Portland. So just be aware and be prepared for that idea to change and to grow even stronger while you're here in the US. And as I kind of mentioned, the whole program is really geared towards helping you develop the program. And so right now, don't worry if you aren't entirely sure what you want to do or how to plan it. We'll have lots of opportunities for you to develop those ideas. And as I mentioned, to really use us here as a staff as resources and ask us any questions you might have. We've all done exchange programs and we've all done projects like this in our home countries or in our home communities. So you can always ask us any questions you might have, and also rely on your in-country staff, because they also have some great resources that we may not know the specific details about Peru. So really know that you can ask them if you have any questions. And then just while you're thinking about it, and especially while you're in your host communities, start thinking about how the different people that you talk to have addressed a particular issue. So depending where you are, think about how a particular school or a particular group has addressed an issue of racial inclusion, and see how you can take those ideas and apply them to the Peruvian context. So as Kala mentioned, here in DC, we'll do a community needs assessment. So thinking about what your community in Peru needs and how it fits with what you want to get out of it. And then we'll also go into steps or planning, present your projects. And one thing that I really want to kind of have you be aware of is making sure that your projects are smart. And we'll go into all of this in a lot of detail, but having them be kind of specific. So be realistic in what you think you would be able to accomplish. Also push yourself, but we want you to be successful. So smart, specific, measurable, achievable, time sensitive, and then just kind of realistic goals. And just kind of also to be aware that this is not necessarily just an individual. You can also work in pairs or in groups for your projects, depending on your regional location in Peru. We just want you to be flexible and know that what you thought about right now may be completely different from what actually ends up happening. So now that you've gotten some more information on the actual exchange and the pattern, as well as the project that you'll actually be doing in Peru, and again, kind of on and off here in the United States, I'm going to pass it off to Carolina, and you'll be able to get more of the cultural side of things.
Yes, so definitely this is an exchange, and everyone, including us, will want to hear all about Peru, about your culture, about what it's like there. But at the same time, you guys are coming here because you want to soak in things about the U.S., learn about what things are like here and how life is here. But certainly with that, I feel like, as Cal said, there's a lot of challenges with that, because it's going to be unfamiliar territory. It's going to be a lot of things that you may have not thought were typical of the U.S. And so it's really you guys have to come with an open mind so you can really push this idea of, what is the U.S. like, and how can I respectfully and kindly share my own ideas about Peru and even about the U.S., because I'm sure a lot of you might have opinions and things that you've formed over the years. And also I think it's important to understand that a lot of people's actions are based off culture as well. So maybe if in your host families or in your communities, or maybe even here at World Learning, if someone says something to you and you're not really sure how to take it, sometimes it's important to think of it in a cultural context and understand maybe why did this person say this. It may have not been to be offensive or anything like that, but it's really all goes back to culture. So I think that especially in the orientations, we're going to give you guys these tools to be able to interpret culture in a U.S. context, because I realize that those are skills that you're coming here to obtain. And also we're extremely excited to learn more about Peru and Bolivia. So with that being said, there are many different cultures within the U.S. There's definitely no homogenous, I guess, American culture, you can say, and I'm more than certain that's the case for Bolivia and Peru as well. So even in the individual places that you're going to be in, like Hala went over Charlottesville and D.C. and the West Coast, there's going to be very stark cultural differences between those places themselves. And so there's going to be kind of like culture shock probably even in between some places. So we kind of want to tell you a little bit about these places so that you can feel comfortable and have like more of an idea of what these places will be like. And of course, all throughout, we're going to be there to support you, and you'll have like your the staff inside the host communities with you. So if you ever have any concerns or questions about or you feel something, especially in regards to culture, like we'll be more than willing to help you, to give you resources, and to maybe explain to you about what you're feeling. And we've all lived abroad, so we definitely know the feeling. So in terms of Charlottesville, it's going to certainly be a smaller town. Charlottesville has UVA, the University of Virginia, and in the US there are certain towns that are pretty much centered around the university, which might be different than where you guys are from, but the smaller town is definitely based around the university. You'll see a lot of merchandise and things that say UVA because there's a lot of pride surrounded around that institution, especially because it's one of the best public universities in the US. There's going to be a mix of liberal and conservative ideas, so you'll meet some people, especially near the campus and among the youth, that have very liberal ideas. And then on the contrary, you might meet other people that tend to lean more conservative. So you can definitely expect to see a mix there. But their beliefs are centered around family and community, which might be something more similar to Peru and Bolivia, but at the same time, it might not be to the same extent. So what they consider centered around family might be very different. So it's something to definitely keep up. And then history is also very important because Charlottesville is somewhere historically for the U.S. that's very significant. So they take pride in their history, their buildings, their architecture, and it's really a lovely place. So I'm excited for you guys to know it. And in terms of the host community, so the host communities are going to be on the west coast of the United States, which tends to be more liberal, lean more liberal politically, and it's immigrant friendly. So that's great. And it's very homogenous. You're going to see less diversity than you would in perhaps New York or Washington, D.C. In these cities. But again, people tend to be more liberal, open-minded, and so forth. And a lot of the activities are nature-oriented. So because the West Coast is so beautiful and vast, they have hikes and trails and all these great things. So a lot of people will pass the time by doing things in nature. So that's very exciting to know about that. And now coming to here in DC, where we're stationed, it's the nation's capital, so it's very fast-paced and it's very professionally oriented. People usually come here, a lot of passionate people. They want to come and work with something, that want to make a difference, that want to initiate some type of change. And so it's very domestically and internationally diverse. People from the West Coast, people from the South of the United States, people from the North, the middle of the United States, and internationally diverse in terms of people from all over the world will come to DC to work, to live, to visit, and to just spend time here and get to know it. So DC is going to have, you'll see a lot more diversity for sure. And in terms of being city smart, DC, as anywhere else, is a city. So there's certain things that we will teach you and help you that you can implement here that you might not have to necessarily as much in Charlottesville or one of these locations, because there's going to be 3 million people in this immediate space or more at a given time. So there's a different, a different way to live in an urban space than in a more rural space. But we'll definitely prep you guys with that, help you guys out, and be here to guide you. So don't worry about that. It's just, it will definitely come to you once you come. And in terms of just challenging your stereotypes of the U.S., because certainly we have Americans have stereotypes about other countries, and other countries have stereotypes about us, and just coming with an open mind and being able to challenge that view that maybe you saw growing up in movies or heard from movie stars and these kind of things that do make it to the international stage, and being able to be like, okay, I'm going to get the authentic U.S. experience and maybe challenge some of these views that you might have about what it's like to be an American or what it's like to live here. And I really think that the trip is immersive, and it's going to give you that opportunity if you come with an open mind and if you come with the intention of learning another culture. You will definitely get that, and I think that you will return to your countries with these skills to implement your projects like Bella spoke about, and also to talk about the U.S. In your own countries in a totally different light. So I'm very excited to see how culturally literate everyone becomes after this experience. You want to close it out?
Yeah, absolutely. So we fully recognize, we just threw a lot of information at you all, and you undoubtedly have questions. So please, please, please reach out to us. You have our email, so please just send us questions. We'll be sending a lot more information your ways, and reference your guidebooks again. Tons of information in there that we've painstakingly put together. So we really appreciate you reading them and taking all the information in. And as Carolina said, get excited. This is going to be an amazing program, an amazing experience. We are working so hard to make it that for you guys. So we cannot wait to have you here. It's going to be a challenging, beautiful 3 weeks together. And so we're really, really excited to have you. And please, again, let us know if you have any questions. And we will see you very soon when you arrive here at the airport in D.C.
Yep.
Yay!
Enjoy.
Yes.
Yes, enjoy Lima, and we'll see you soon.
Bye.
Ciao.
Ciao.